Welcome to Let's Talk Kingdom. Have you ever gone through deliverance? And then going through deliverance, you thought that, okay, I went through deliverance. Everything else going to flow in my life. Everything else going to move and everything else just going to spring forward. Let me tell you something about deliverance. When you get deliverance, you still need to heal after the deliverance. And I know a lot of you probably saying, I don't need deliverance. My mama was a pastor. My grandmama was a pastor. My granddaddy was a great granddaddy was a pastor. I come from a line of pastors and preachers and apostles and teachers and bishops and things of that nature. And we go back 4, 5, 6, 7 generations. You still need deliverance. There are many of you, you have been through traumas and different dramas and dysfunctions in your family, and people taking things from you at a young age and mishandling you and mistreating you and beating you and abusing you and just mistreating you altogether. And you have a lot of trauma and a lot of fears and a lot of defense mechanisms that you have put up, you have put in a place where God should have been protecting you. You felt like you had to put up these bars and these mechanisms to protect yourself. And I know what I'm talking about, because when I was a little girl, I watched my mother being violated, and in that violation I put up bars, and I decided that I wasn't gonna let no man tell me what to do, control me in any way, shape, form, or fashion. And I also was not going to ever put myself in a position where I have to trust anybody to do anything for me. And as I grew up, that included God. Even though I loved God, was in church and ready to do whatever God needed for me to do, waiting for pie to fall out the sky, and tithing and giving into ministry and things of that nature. But I still had a defense mechanism up, and I really didn't recognize it until after I ended up going through deliverance. And after going through deliverance, the healing process that needed to take place after the deliverance. So there are many of us, we go through deliverance, but when we go through deliverance, we think that deliverance is all that we need, but we still need to go through the healing, because the residue, the symptoms, the results of the fears and the traumas and things of that nature keep showing up in our lives. Have you ever prayed for something and then you get the thing that you prayed for, but it seems to be the total opposite? It's the dark side, it's the demonic, it's connected to, the negative of the thing that you wanted. Like when you saw the thing, or when you prayed about the thing, you looked at this beautiful thing and it was the thing that you wanted, but whenever you got the results of the thing, it was the thing that you wasn't expecting. You're like, God, I didn't ask for this. I asked you for this husband that I want, but you sent this thing into my life with all of the qualifications and looking like everything that I asked for, but this ain't it right here, Lord. But it's because of your soul, it's because of the unhealing. We've gone through the deliverance, but because we haven't gone through the healing, we still look at things on a lower level, a lower expectation. So even though we look at somebody, we want to be built up and looking like Boaz, and then God sends this little scrawny little fellow that looks like he don't have anything to offer you or whatever, and this is a contradiction of what it is that you want. You got what you think you deserve instead of what it is that you're actually asking God for. But it's connected to you, it's connected to the unhealing. This is what you feel you deserve, even though you're looking at something that you want, but you don't get the thing that you want. You get what it is that you think you deserve. Let me ask you another question. Do you know that there are people who look at you and they see that you need deliverance? They see that there is something wrong. They see that you're a little slow, that you're a little behind the times, a little behind the clock, that you're not all wired, with all your wires intact and things of that nature, that you see things from a different perspective. And it's not just because you're prophetic. It's not just because you're a prophet. It's just that they see the bondage. They see that you need deliverance, but they never tell you. They never tell you because they want you to depend on them. They like where you are. They like the fool that you are, the way you cut up, the way that you act, the way you're the life of the party, the way you will, just explode and just tear up some stuff, or however it is that you manifest in the way that they like. They know something wrong with you, but they don't tell you. And they don't tell you because they don't want you to change, because they know if you change, if you get the deliverance and you get the healing that you need, They know that you are forced to be reckoned with. How do I know this? So let's go to scripture. When you look at Mark chapter 5, Mark chapter 5 is about a demoniac that meets Jesus getting off the boat. He knew he needed help. Now, he was in a place where all of the people in the town, they did everything to try to confine him, try to hold him down, try to put chains and fetters on him and try to keep him from hurting himself. And some people, just put him in a position where, okay, you hopeless. You go and live in the tombs and, allowing him to cut himself and things of that nature, and not putting the blame on other people for the things that, he chose or that he was possessed with, that he had to go through. Because people did try to help him. They tried to bind him, but they tried to help him in the way that they wanted to help him and not in the way that he needed to be helped. And then there were people who had good intentions and who really wanted to help him but could not help him because they did not know how to help him. But when you look at your life, you see these same situations, and we point our fingers and point to people and say what they didn't do. But it takes for us to go through to get to the healer, and then to get the deliverance that we need from the only person who is able to heal and deliver us. And then for us nowadays to go through the healing process that we need to go through. But there are people who see that you could be so much greater and have so much more in you and so much potential in you, but they're afraid of you. They're afraid that if you get up, they're afraid that if you don't need them no more, they're afraid that if you they keep putting, $5 or $10 in your hand or blessing you with this and blessing you with that instead of helping you to get up and get to where you need to be. They want you dependent on them because they know that once you rise and once you get up, you're going to be clothed in your right mind. And when you're clothed in your right mind, it's not that you don't need them anymore, but they don't want you to get up and surpass. They see the potential and the greatness in you. They see what God is doing in you and what God has on you and what you could be doing, but they leave you in the tombs. They leave you in the ruins. They leave you looking like, instead of somebody stepping up and say, you know what, that you have, you can use that. God can use that. God can really bless you and clean you up and help you. But you need to go through deliverance because those may be demons. You need to go through deliverance because your traumas or your past are coming to haunt you. And this is the way that it's manifesting. You need to go through deliverance so that you can go through the deliverance to get the healing that you need so that God can use you. Because one thing for certain and two things for sure, God knows the plan that God has for you. And God knows what's in you. But because people watch and see you in a messed up state and leave you there, they see it as well, but they don't want you to get up. But the deliverance, when you go through deliverance, like, I thank God because God is just so good. Many of us think that because we are Christians, we have the Bible and things of that nature, that all we need is the word. And that may be true, but we have so many distractions and so much information and so many different things going on now in the world that we attach things with attaching things and not going to get the help that we need. A lot of us think that we don't need to go to doctors and we don't need to go to therapists and things of that nature because the Bible is just going to fix it all. And I'm not speaking derogatory against the Bible, but because we have so much mixed up, tainted, and diluted information, polluted information nowadays, that we look at things and we really can't tell the difference of, is this God or is this the devil? Is this information or is this that information? Instead of us sitting down and talking to a therapist, we have this stigma, oh, I'm not crazy, ain't nothing wrong with me, I don't want to go see no therapist, I don't need to go see no therapist. All the trauma you done been through, all the generational curses and dysfunctions and things of that nature and stuff you had to be delivered from, and you don't think you need a therapist. We all need a therapist, but God is so good. I'm not in a financial place right now to get the therapy that I need, but I know that I need therapy. But God has been taking me through YouTube University, and in YouTube University, sometimes I'll spend hours just absorbing what God leads me to, the content that he has me to listen to in mental health, about OCD, about self-sabotage, and just different things of that nature, how he's building me up. But it is God leading me on a daily basis. But I had to go through the deliverance in order to get to the place of healing. Now, let me mention somebody's name, and I don't care what y'all say about being a bootlicker or trying to get clout or whatever the little sayings that some of y'all be leaving whenever I mention people's name in the comments. But Dr. Faith Wolcomott is a blessing from God. About 2.5 years ago, I joined her DTA. And in joining her DTA, I got more than I was paying for in her DTA. And let me say this as well. What led me to her was her free webinars. When she gives a free webinar, it's so much information and power in the free that it makes you want to pay for everything else. But it was a free webinar that I was connected to her through. And when I got into the DTA, she did a mass deliverance. And that mass deliverance that she did, it wasn't that I hadn't been through in areas of deliverance. I just had never been through deliverance. When I grew up as a little girl in church, it was a Baptist church. And back then they had deliverance services on certain Sundays. So I watched deliverance go through people, demons being cast out and things of that nature when I was a little girl. When I returned back to the church after being on the run, I went to another church that my family had become a part of, and this one preacher came in. Her name was Dr. Wanell Johnson. At the time, I heard she got married since, but she came in and she preached a sermon, and demons were being cast out, and people were, just convulsing, and witches and things of that nature were being exposed. And her topic was suffer a witch not to live, from the book of Exodus. The witch must die was the topic, but the scripture was suffer the witch not to live. But the demons were coming up out of these certain people, and people were just contorting and convulsing and demon trembling and things of that nature. And God said, get on your knees and pray. Just knew back into the church, in the choir stand, away from everything that was going on. But she kept right on preaching while the demons was coming out. She wasn't affected by or moved by, or her message didn't skip a beat. She allowed the demons to come out and for them to flee and do whatever they needed to do. And she stood there with her composure and just preached that sermon, and it changed my life, But I'd never been through the deliverance process myself. So when Dr. Faith did the mass deliverance, it was the first time that I had gone through the mass deliverance, but I knew that it was something that I needed, because from that mass deliverance, God opened my eyes in such a way. He took me back to childhood traumas when I was 4 years old, back to the point in time of when I put up the defense mechanisms, of when I decided that I wasn't going to let no man control me, tell me what to do. I put up defense mechanisms that I was going to take care of myself. Nobody couldn't protect me the way that I had to protect me. From the age of 4 up until I was 50 years old, I had this defense mechanism up. And you know who else that included? God as well. Even though I was in church serving and, doing whatever I needed to do in church as a church participant, things of that nature, having prophetic gifts and, things of that nature. But I still wasn't trusting God. And I kept asking, what's wrong, God? Why can't I reach? Why do I keep hitting a glass ceiling? Why does it feel like my prayers aren't being answered, and things of that nature, and wanting more and knowing that there was more, And this was all before I went through the deliverance. But once I went through that deliverance with Dr. Faith, it was like everything else began to fall into line. But I didn't go through healing. I got stuck on deliverance. And getting stuck on deliverance, I kept going through different deliverance sessions. I believed that it was God leading me to different sessions that I needed to go through to get the deliverance, whether it was online or whatever, for me to get the deliverance that I needed. But I still had not gone through the healing process. But you know, God is a great God. He's a faithful God. He's a good God. He is the God who orders our steps. He is a God who, his word is a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. When we go through what we need to go through, and the demons, the demonic has no longer legal right to be able to do anything, the way God starts moving and shifting and putting things into place for his will to come into alignment, for us to get the healing that we need, so that we don't get to a wealthy place, get to a good place in God, excuse me, get to a place where we end up self-sabotaging and pulling down because we don't go through the deliverance that we need. God is willing, and he orders our steps and put people into position and into place. And when I tell you, things started to move, and God would say, listen to this person, and I'm willing to feed my spirit and listen and hear and see myself and see the attachment to the abandonment and the rejection and the fears and the different generational curses that had to be broken through the deliverance, and the things my grandmother and my mother went through, the things that hindered and held them, the things that were projected onto me and my siblings, and the things that I needed to be delivered from. God ordered my steps after the deliverance to move into the healing phase. Many of us don't think that we need healing because we don't like the stigma of people saying, oh, you're crazy, or I'm not crazy. I'm not going to see no therapist. I'm not going for healing. But you need the healing in order to walk into the greatness of who God has called and ordained for you to be. God showed me something in the book of Esther. Everybody knows that I love the book of Esther. If you look on my TikTok or even on this YouTube channel, you may find messages on Esther, because it's just something about the book of Esther. God shows me many different sermons from Esther. But one of the things that he showed me recently from the book of Esther was the difference between Hadassah and Queen Esther. And he asked me, what do you see? And I began to talk about, how Hadassah, she was a little Jewish girl. She, was taken from her home and things of that nature. He didn't ask me what the history was and the difference between Queen Esther being queen and being able to deliver her people. The point he wanted me to get was, especially for such a time as this, the point is that we must heal. But in that healing, there is a purpose in the healing, especially for those of us who are going to do great things in the kingdom. Those of us, he's telling that we need to build things. If you build it, they will come. The building is not just in the physical building of a brick and mortar building of a business and things of that nature. The building could be building up the kingdom work that needs to be done on the inside of you, getting healed and getting to the place where you can build the platform to be able to heal, to set the captives free, to do the work, to be the repairer of the breach, to do what God has called and placed in the inside of you. But the thing that he showed me the difference between Hadassah and Queen Esther is that Hadassah was a very beautiful girl. She was beautiful physical. She was beautiful in her radiance and her countenance of what illuminated through her. People were attracted to her. People listened and they were just drawn to her immediately. And, she had this beauty about her, but with the beauty, she was broke. She may have been able to talk and have people's ear and things of that nature, but she didn't have no power. She didn't have no influence. She ain't had no money, but she was Hadassah. But once she transitioned, once she went through what she needed to go through, the process of the healing and the deliverance, forgetting about the old, and stepping into the new and preparing herself and positioning herself to walk into the newness of this position that she has responsibility. Because when you read the Midrash, it talks about Queen Esther not only being queen, but how she ruled over certain territory and things, like she had work of things, responsibility that was placed in her hand, but she had to heal. She had to go through deliverance. She was no longer Hadassah, who had a beautiful countenance, who looked like she could be queen, but wasn't queen, who had the beauty of a queen, but wasn't queen, who was able to catch people's attention, commanded presence, walked into a room and lit the whole room up with her beauty and her countenance, with her femininity and things of that nature, but she still didn't have the things that she needed until she transitioned into queen. But she couldn't transition into queen if she did not deal with the things of the past. The hurts and the brokenness, the rejection and the fears. She had to go through the healing process. And her voice was heard when she spoke because she was in position as queen. She had influence. She had respect. She had money. She had power. She had the things that she needed. Not just the title, but the title as well as queen. Many of us, we are wondering why I can't get past this level. Why do I keep hitting this brick wall? Why do I keep hitting this glass ceiling? Because we haven't healed, even though we've been through deliverance. Some of us haven't been through deliverance because we're afraid of deliverance. And how are we going to look if we get delivered? When you need to be delivered because you're bleeding and you're hurting and you're wounding and you're bruising people because you haven't been through deliverance, because your old life and this new life that you're trying to walk in as a born again Christian, as a child of God. You know, you're trying to do things and move forward and seeking Most High to do all of these things for you, but you won't go through deliverance to get healed to a whole place where you can help people. Because God, when he created us, he wanted a family. And he's family oriented. And it's like the messages that he give me, it's all about family and being family oriented and being connected as a family, even when we're not physically connected to the people. Like the message, they are going to need you. These are people, whether they're blood family or not, people are going to need you, because God is all about a family of people. But we must heal in order to deal with people. We must heal in order to be effective, that we are not hurting and beating and being a prophet with a heavy hammer that's coming down on the heads of the people and crushing people's whole lives and their whole spirits because of the call, because of the office. But we're still broken in areas where we need deliverance or where we need healing. So we need deliverance, but we also need healing. And we need healing so that we can have power to stand in the position, in the authority that is being given to us, that we are transitioning into, in order for people to hear what it is that we're saying. Because it doesn't matter how powerful we are. You know, a lot of people, I have this platform. I also have a platform, Femininity with Mama Gail. Like during COVID, I started that to have something to keep my mind, you know, talking about femininity and things of that nature. But I was wondering, like, why won't my channel grow? And a lot of people kept saying to me, you know, you should be viral with the things that you say and things of that nature. But what God needed for me to do was go through deliverance so that he could deliver me, so that I could see me. And in seeing me, I was able to see the bars of how I play God in my life, of how I don't trust people, of how I need deliverance, you know, needed deliverance at the time, of how I had to transition after deliverance into the healing. You know, how Dr. Faith and the things that she presented and provided in her DTA was an asset for me to eat from, to get the freedom to move forward in the things that I need to build for myself, for the kingdom of God, with God, because I can't do it without God. And I got a few more minutes. I'm going to talk about that as well, because when we don't get delivered and God keeps repeating a scripture over and over, you know, when I first came back to Christ and after running from the call and running from church and things of that nature, it was John 15, chapters 1 through 10, mostly 10 and 11. God kept me in that book for months. Abide in me as my word abides in you. Apart from me, you can do nothing. I am the vine, ye are the branches, letting me know but I couldn't receive, I couldn't hear what God was saying because I needed deliverance. Once I got delivered from it, really snapped into this is why. Like, my life made sense. When I look back over my life, it's like I could see the hand of God moving and shifting and putting things into place, and just his hand over my life throughout my whole life, through the good, the bad, and the ugly, because he wanted to get me to a place where I could be clothed and in my right mind. But I make this video to share with you that there are many of you, you're wondering what's wrong. Why do I keep hitting this brick wall, this glass ceiling? Why can't I get past this? You won't deal with the healing that needs to take place. And I haven't even gone into the healing of how people broke our hearts and left us and rejected us and abandoned us in adulthood. We've gotten into relationships and we thought that they would be long-term relationships, and the person decided, I want to leave. I don't want to be here. I don't want you, or whatever the case may be. When you're clothed and in your right mind and you look at people who saw you acting other than yourself and knowing that there was a whole nother you in you, and you don't go back to them people and say, man, why you allow me to be such a, you take responsibility and get whole and step into the newness and the greatness that is within you, with or without their permission. And you don't need their permission when you clothed in your right mind, because Jesus may send you back to them same people who are going to need you. And in them needing you, you are going to have to be a different person than who you were, and not holding on to what they did or did not do. Because God is putting you in position and in place and elevating you to be a deliverer to your people for such a time as this. This is Let's Talk Kingdom. I pray that this was a blessing to you. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Have a blessed and prosperous day on purpose.